finesse and elegance.
Terroir.
Minerality and complexity.
Drainage.
Surprise.
One big rock.
And quality.
Soils and people.
Community. Quality.
Balance and elegance.
Aromatics.
Density.
Volcanic soils.
And freshness.
2 words.
Fruit and bold gentleman.
Elegant and
high impact aroma. That was 4 words.
Families.
Beautiful and savory.
Intense freshness.
Coombsville dirt.
And unexpected.
Jim Erda.
That's really what it's all about.
For our listeners who don't know, what exactly is Coombsville?
Coombsville is east of downtown Napa, 10 minutes away, and it's very close to San Pablo Bay. Coombsville for the longest time was the youngest sub-appellation of the Napa Valley AVA, and it's very unique compared to the other AVAs because we're all the way south, but we get the most amazing coast influence from San Pablo Bay. We have a caldera, volcanic soils, that makes our Coombsville soils very different from everybody else, and that affects the grandeur of what makes Coombsville wines very, very special.
I'm David Jelinke, and I'm the winemaker at Faust.
What makes Coombsville wine special?
Oh gosh, it's a whole host of things. Coombsville, I think, is amazing because it has such a cooling influence from the bay. We're the closest AVA to the bay that, other than, say, Carneros. And we have volcanic soils. The entire AVA is inside an old volcano. So the combination of those two, you end up being able to ripen things that you wouldn't if we had heavier soils in that cool of a climate. But because the soils are light and volcanic and they warm up quicker, that allows us to grow Cabernet Sauvignon down there, and but yet still have the freshness and brightness, coupled with really deep dark fruit and really well-behaved tannins. So you can have wines that have a lot of tannin, but they feel very supple.
David, thanks very much for taking the time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
So what makes the Coombsville AVA special?
In 1981, we needed to know, well, I needed to know what varieties to plant. I mean, I knew nothing about Coombsville, and at that time, they thought it was so close to like Carneros that it would be too cool for Cabernet. And I didn't really want to plant Pinot, I don't know, whatever the reason was. So I put 2 hydrothermographs out in 80 and 81. Found out that we were warmer with those 2-year highs and lows. We were warmer than Bordeaux. It changed my view of what to plant from Chardonnay Pinot to Cabernet or Bordeaux varieties. And then being close to Carneros, we get those cooling breezes every day. And now with global warming and all, it's really, in a way, made us more of a premium area going forward because we just don't have those super warm days like above Jonfelder. So that's got to play a huge role. And then another thing, being on in a caldera and being on the hillsides of a caldera, a lot of volcanic rock. So we have Aiken clay, reddish brown soil that's got the first 2 to 4 feet is just full of rock from volcanic eruptions and all. And then underneath that is tuft or the compressed ash. So it's got all the nutrients. I mean, it's pretty damn good stuff. It's got the drainage because we have slopes all the way around the Coombsville area. And this beautiful temperature. The highs and lows are almost ideal for red wines. And that's really what it's all about. It's the terroir, where it is.
What makes Coombsville AVA wine special?
The location, obviously, is pretty unique in the valley and I think in the world. But more significantly, I find that the community of Coombsville definitely makes the AVA pretty unique, pretty special.
For our listeners who'd like to learn about you guys online, what's your website?
Tournesolwine.com.
Very good. Well, it's nice meeting you. Thanks very much.
Too. Thank you so much.
We've fringed on this sort of, but what is it for you that makes Coombsville wines special?
Oh, without a question, it's the soil, the terroir, the volcanic soils. It's the minerality. It's distinctive. I mean, you can go down the street 6 miles, and your wine's going to taste different than it does here in Coombsville, and it's such a beautiful wine. That comes from here, and it should be recognized. And people have come to understand what it is, and they seek it out now, which is great.
Why is Coombsville wine special?
Yeah, so when I first moved to Napa, I lived in Coombsville and I loved it. It's so special because it ripens, in my opinion, the latest of the season. So you get these really complex, amazing aromas and phenolics that come out of the fruit because you get such a different geography and weather that comes through. And so it was just beautiful that it'd be like October 30th, November 1st, and you would see the fruit still on the vine, but not raisining and not getting jammy. It just develops these incredible flavors.
You had mentioned to me that you were involved with it as a cork sponsorship. Can you explain that? And that's for P&V, is that correct?
Yeah, it's for Premiere Napa Valley. So G3 is the exclusive distributor of DIAM, D-I-A-M corks in North America. It's the second largest cork company in the world. And this is our second year partnering with Napa Valley Vintners for Premiere Napa Valley. So all the auction lots will have a DIAM 30 cork, and they will be branded with Premiere Napa Valley. So that way you have a cork that will help your wine age for 30 years, be consistent, and protect these delicious wines, whether they come from Coombsville or Rutherford or Oakville. And so we provide the corks to the winemakers who want them to protect their wine for all of their special auction lots.
What do you think makes Coombsville wine special?
We're the last grapes to be picked as far as Cabernet, yes. So Coombsville is shaped like a half moon. And we're real close to the bay, the San Pablo Bay. And so the way it works is that San Pablo Bay fog moves into that little, it looks like a horseshoe or a half moon, and it sits. And it sits longer than what happens up valley. So the fog kind of moves back from up valley, but stays in this little horseshoe until the end. And so that's why we get this the tannin style that we have and some of the things that makes our wine special because of that coolness.
I'm here with Mark DeVera. Mark is a master of wine, which is a pretty big deal and very interesting. You don't get to meet people like this very often. Mark, tell me, why is Coombsville wine special?
Well, I think Coombsville is such an interesting region because it's the coolest Cabernet Sauvignon dominant region of Napa Valley. The cold winds off the bay that cool down the growing season, and that freshness and brightness that you can capture in Cabernet Franc, and other varieties in Coombsville. Fascinating.
I'm Sarah Berger, and I've been in the wine industry for 8 years now. I've done almost everything in this industry: sales, production, operations, any events, all of it.
Nice. My main question here tonight is, what makes Coombsville wine special?
The people, always. It's like old school wine. Wine is more of a feeling than it is a product, and people here make the community pretty special. It's probably one of the better environments now for producing wine. A really diverse soil composition, incredible influence with the San Pablo Bay just down the road, and we still get the heat, cool mornings, cool evenings, but it really just comes down to the people, always. At the end of the day, it's just a great place, and you can feel it in the wine.
You'd mentioned something to me about John Caldwell. What's that all about?
Oh, John Caldwell is just, I worked with Joy and John for about 5 years, and I have a lot of respect for what they have done, are doing, and what they're looking forward to. They've just got a pretty incredible experiment of a vineyard and a robust portfolio that everybody should be tapping into.
What makes Coombsville wine special?
For me, Coombsville is the aromatics in the bottle. You can smell a Coombsville wine. the Coombsville dirt, if you will, that very earthiness and minerality that expresses itself. But also a lot of small production people, so the passion behind the wine. And we're still a neighborhood. We're still a place where we live here, work here, farm here, make wine here. So that makes us kind of unique and special.
Yeah. To me, it's all about the people in Coombsville. I think the secret's out now, but I always felt like we had our own little secret. We were making world-class wines, and no one really knew about us, but we were doing it in a very small, intimate way, and I think that still continues, and I think that's what makes Coombsville very special, like relative to sort of like other places. It's when you knock on someone else's door, you know you're probably going to meet the winemaker, the owner. They're all going to be there. It's less employees, it's more families than anything.
What makes Coombsville special?
So Coombsville for me is it dials back the heat of Napa. You know, we're in volcanic layers. We have the story of Napa there. The soil is a little thin, but that's a different chapter. But I like to say it's, I forgot who coined that one, but it's the last one to warm up, the first one to cool down for the AVAs. And what it does is dials back the heat and it dials back the cycle of ripening to where our polyphenols and our sugar loading kind of match. And so we can ripen at lower sugar, and it gives a little more finesse. It retains a little more acidity. So that's not the darling of the Parker years, but with what's coming and the style of wine and the change in people's palate, we're right in tune with that. So you have a freshness, but you're not as cold as a Class Peak on Vintners that are mountain elevation with a cooler exposure to the bay, where you get some grainness, you get some flavors that are a little more pyrazinic. Coombsville, we ripen, unless you're on first, and then there is like the Mink Vineyard with beautiful Chard and Pinot there. That's a little outlier, but that's how much the stratus of cold air and temperature lay into Coombsville. If you're really low, it's a little dangerous for cab. But when you go First Avenue, Second Avenue, like the Meteor, all that area, it's fantastic for ripening Cabernet.
Teresa Lutwack, and I am the Western Regional Sales Manager for Palmaz Vineyards.
What makes Coombsville wines special?
I believe that Coombsville has such a variation of microclimates. I don't think people think of Coombsville as having higher elevation, which we do. In addition to the soils. We've got all that volcanic rock, but then it comes down to sandy loam and clay, and I believe that really shows in most of the Coombsville wines.
Elan Villamore. I have been working for Coombsville Vintners and Growers since 2018. What makes Coombsville wine special is something I didn't know. I came from Chicago, didn't know anything about the wine country, and I ended up working for a winery in Coombsville called Italic Wine Growers, which is now gone. And I helped actually start the first Discover Coombsville for this association. And what I love about this is the people. It's a small community of people from big wineries to family-owned wineries. The passion that people have in the grapes that they produce for their wines. Famous winemakers have used Coombsville grapes, but nobody knows about it. So the point of having our Discover Coombsville event is to showcase the various amazing wines that we have. And that's what I'm proud of to be a part of.
To you, what makes Coombsville special?
The spirit of the people. This is a farming community. It's not uncommon for my neighbor to hop the fence and help fix a problem without me asking for help. People welcome me into their homes. People have a sense of history here. They value being a neighbor. My neighbors take good care of me, and I hope they feel the same about what I do for them. But I think that's what Coombsville is about. The challenge for Coombsville is to have more identity around the vineyards versus the wineries. I think that almost like the Burgundy model, where the vineyards have, because we know that it's in a caldera, but there's a complex structure of the soil. There's some people that are more on stone than on clay, than on diamoclaceous clay, I forgot how to pronounce it. And so there's a lot of really interesting things going on with respect to the land and the weather. And so I think if I were to have a wish list, I would love for the vineyards to have more marketing and brand appeal than the wineries. You're going to meet the winemaker.
Yes, actually, exactly what you're touching on is what I think makes this estate very special, is this extraordinary diversity of terrain, right? So I get to play with pockets that are completely different from each other. And then, all in one estate, I then say, let's go make a really finessed wine. So not only am I sitting in a pocket of Napa that protects me from making blown out and overly angular or overly extracted wine. So I get to already be somewhat finessed and constrained because I'm in Coombsville. I then get to work with this amazing diversity of soil and fruit quality that's then going to be able to be blended into something that's really complex and finessed. So as a blending house, as a Cabernet blending house, this is sort of like the best of both worlds. The challenge is you then have to create an operation that can still be small and artisan and authentic and deal with a ton of variability. That operationally can be very stressful if you're not organized. And we built this winery to try and stay organized fundamentally. How do we make lots of little lots? Because we have lots of little nooks and crannies in this vineyard that we want to harvest. We want to farm them differently. We want to harvest them differently. We want to ferment them differently. How are we going to capture that without completely driving ourselves crazy?
To me, I think it's that microclimate that we have there. It comes. It's not the coolest part of the valley, but it's one probably, after Carneros, is one of the coolest areas to grow grapes here in the valley. And having that influence from the ocean, in the late afternoon and early morning with the fog and the breeze and the warm days, I think it's very, very important. And you develop those grapes. Those grapes develop, flavors and aroma in a slow pace that you don't have in other parts, in the northern part of the valley, right? And it's amazing. You drive just 10 miles, from here to Johnville, and the temperature will be very different in the same day. So, and also the soils. The soils in Coombsville are very, very unique, very interesting. And I think that is what makes Coombsville AVA so unique to grow grapes.
Since a great deal of our focus on this particular trip is for Coombsville, I've been asking winemakers, in your eyes, what makes Coombsville wine special?
Well, having a Bordeaux background, in 2007, when I bought the property and made our 2008s, it wasn't fashionable to, if you bring yourself back to that period of time in Napa, those weren't the fashionable style wines. Coombsville wines it's all mineral driven, it's all, you get the fruit and you get the acidity, you get the balance. Where everybody was looking at these voluptuous fruit bombs coming up front, and I'd never liked that style. Clearly, you never got that style in Bordeaux, and it's not a style that I ever been accustomed to. I've always thought wine is something you want to drink with food, not as food. And a lot of these wines, I didn't know how people can drink them and eat food with them because they were just too over the top, too over extracted, it was one-dimensional to me. And I understand that the weather's hotter out here, and the grapes get riper. The alcoholic content is higher, but there is winemaking techniques you can use not to make the wines like that. And we certainly don't make our St. Helena wines or Oakville wines like that at all. We never have. So I like Coombsville because of the type of soils that they have. They have the granulated rocky soil that they call it Coombsville loam, I guess. And it's the drainage is exquisite. You got the fog coming off the San Pablo Bay in the morning, and then you have the beautiful wind coming off there too in the afternoon. So we get long sunlight hours, but we also get the coolness. So it's still cooler down in Coombsville than it is in St. Helena, probably by 10 degrees during the day. But it also cools down, and it even gets cooler at night. So it still gets its sunlight ripening hours, but it gets that coolness at night, and it just makes the wines so exquisite. And I think with a lot more character and a lot more dimension than even some of our spectacular sites up in St. Helena or in Oakville. It's just a different beast. So that's why we're very excited about we were able to get allocations of Meteor these last 3 or 4 years, and that could possibly be one of the best Cabernet Sauvignon vineyards in all of Coombsville. And it's the wines coming out of there are just stunning.
I'm here with Jelinke, and she is with the Napa Valley Wine Academy. A pleasure to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too.
Thank you. So the question I have tonight is, what makes Coombsville wine special?
Coombsville wines are so unique in Napa Valley because basically, it's the coolest site within a very warm region. So they have the ability to balance acidity, tannin, alcohol in a way that no other AVA has to.
Spoken like somebody from a wine academy, which makes good sense. And you'd mentioned something coming up that you wanted to have our listeners learn about.
Yes, so March 19th, we have a masterclass with Coombsville AVA, and we're gonna focus on ageability. We had masterclasses with them in the last couple of years, each year, and this is gonna be unique because we're gonna taste some library wines that other times you won't have ever a chance to taste.
For our listeners who'd like to learn about you online, what's your website?
It's napavalleywineacademy.com. It's pretty long, but when you get there, there's a lot of information available for WSCD classes, our proprietary courses, and many other information that's also available just for your knowledge.
Very good. Shirley, a real pleasure meeting you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So as of January 1st, 2026, the state of California passed the State Bill AB 720, which allows folks who grow grapes in the state of California and make wine at a custom crush facility to host up to 36 what they're called estate vineyard tastings every single calendar year with an over-the-counter permit through the ABC. And this has been monumental. This has been something that our local nonprofit has been advocating for 8 years now, is the ability for growers to invite the public onto their property to taste wine. And we haven't been able to achieve that legally through all of our efforts and advocacy through Napa County, but hey, the state came through. So
that's really fantastic and is a big deal. And for people to understand how all this contributes to the cost of a bottle of wine, to be able to get this movement going, because nothing happens fast here in Napa or in California in general. So kudos to you and to your group, Rebecca Chandri, amongst other people.
And Jim Erda, he's been a great force. So our nonprofit formerly was known as Save the Family Farms. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, but after this state mandate passed, we're actually rebranding to the Micro Winery Guild. And we're inviting all producers in the state of California, essentially, to come on board, and we offer personalized consulting on how to host these vineyard tasting events to comply with state regulations and any local regulations that are imposed on top of the state bill. And we have guides to help people sort of craft these memorable experiences for the public, because the last thing you want to do is open up your vineyard and offer a flight, right? Yeah. Those are a dime a dozen. So we're really trying to set ourselves apart here, and we have the ability. I mean, how many people say they want boots on the ground experiences out at a winery? They want to enjoy a glass of wine while they're walking the vineyard, while they're learning something about cultivating world-class wine grapes. And here we have the opportunity to do that. So we're really excited. Jim Erta has been a huge force in helping us, invite in all of the sub-AVA industries in Napa. So we have the Coombsville and Vintners, and Jim's great friends with all of the other sub-AVAs. So we're kind of just networking out, spreading the word, and trying to bring people into the fold. But it's a very exciting time.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And I should mention, Jim Erta owns the Immaculate Vineyard, which is such a cool name. Gigantic Virgin Mary statue in the vineyard.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah, you can't miss it.